Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today we're going to be talking about big pharma and the environment, and well, just I guess some interesting intersections of those two topics. But before we do that, I want to remind you guys, as always, to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, where you can get all of our latest content, including some of you may have noticed that we have a new content contributor, Mr. Isaac Lindenberger, who you may recognize that last name. His brother kind of made some waves recently by coming out and saying, I'm going to vaccinate myself now that I'm 18, even though my mom's against it. So Isaac is also on his own journey, contributing content. He recently interviewed me right there on Spirituality and Agorism, and he's got an excellent interview with Rick Strassman on the reality and fantasy of DMT. So check those out. And of course, we are continuing our Divest from Facebook campaign this week, so check that out and get over there on Minds. And finally, if you want a free ounce of Kratom, click this link right here from our partners, Brave Botanicals. When you do that, not only do you get a free ounce of Kratom, but you also help support me. I get a small commission for all CBD and Kratom sales, and that allows us to continue going. So thanks for that. All right, so this is coming from The Conversation, which is a pretty good website. It says Big Pharma emits more greenhouse gases than the automotive industry. Who would have thought that? This is coming off of a new study that they were involved in called Carbon Footprint of the Global Pharmaceutical Industry and Relative Impact of Its Major Players from the Journal of Cleaner Production, published at Science Direct. And it says that they took an assessment and comparative analysis of the greenhouse gas emissions of the top 15 global pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical industry emission intensity is about 55% higher than the automotives, which I think is interesting because for those who understand the discussion around global warming, climate change, these sort of things, heating up the planet, we're often told that driving our vehicles is, releasing greenhouse gases, and that's causing the heating of the planet. Now, I won't get into that whole discussion because obviously that's a controversial area. But I will say that I find it intriguing that we've never heard this. We've never heard that, well, more than your driving, more than the automotive industry, apparently the pharmaceutical companies, they're causing more damage and release of more greenhouse gases. And if you follow that line of thinking with the global warming and climate change, well, that means the pharmaceutical companies are more responsible for damage to the planet and for heating up the planet than you driving your car, which is an important discussion that should be had. It said there is a great level of variability in emissions, up to 5 times between peers with comparable revenues. We'll get into that. And it says we calculate the intensities and maximum emissions required to comply with the Paris Agreement. You can look at the actual study here, but I want to look at the article here, and it gives you some insight into this whole thing. And it says our recent study found the global pharmaceutical industry is not only a significant contributor to global warming, but is also dirtier than the global automotive production sector. So this is all over the world. And it says only 2 other studies had some relevance looking into this area. One looked at the environmental impact of the U.S. healthcare system, and the other at the pollution, mostly water, discharged by drug manufacturers. Now, obviously, that's an important area. The drug manufacturers, as we're going to point out in a moment, their products have the potential to, spill or to leak out, or, whether they're gases or liquids, and then to get out into the water supply. This is why, we've seen examples of different water supplies being tested and finding mass amounts of pharmaceuticals. Now, also some would say, well, the reality is that so many people are on Xanax and are on these various pharmaceuticals, and they're filtering them through their bodies, and then they piss them out, and that goes into the toilet and then gets into the stream, and then you end up with water supply that's just filled with toxins. I think it's probably a combination of both, not only because these massive pharmaceutical companies are contributing to poisoning water and poisoning soil, and then obviously this study is saying heating up the planet, but that there is a massive dose of people who are on this, and that's getting out there one way or the other. Pharmaceuticals are in the water, pharmaceuticals are in people, and apparently they're causing the heating of the planet. More than 200 companies represent the global pharmaceutical market, yet only 25 consistently reported their direct and indirect greenhouse gas emissions in the past 5 years. Of those, only 15 reported their emissions since 2012. There's a couple of key points. The main things that I think are important here is that it says we found it was 48.5 tons of CO2 equivalent per $1 million. That's about 55% greater than the automotive sector at 31.4 tons of CO2 per $1 million. It says we restricted our analysis to the direct emissions generated by the company's operations and to the indirect emissions generated by the electricity purchased by these companies from their respective utility companies. Because you have to think about this. These companies, pharmaceutical companies, they have massive factories and warehouses where they are either synthesizing or extracting. They're doing some different lab experiments and chemistry experiments to create the pills and the medicines that they sell to people for outrageous prices oftentimes. And that involves electricity. It involves all sorts of factors that contribute to the output of CO2. The total global emissions of the pharma sector amounts to about 52 megatons of CO2 equivalent in 2015 and more than 46 megatons of CO2, which is more than the 46.4 megatons of the CO2 generated by the automotive sector. The value of the pharma market, however, is smaller than the automotive market. So even though big pharma is actually making less and it's valued at less than the automotive market, they're still putting out a larger amount of emissions. Now they go into some specifics that I think are interesting here. The emissions at Eli Lilly, which is one of the pharmaceutical companies, was 5.5 times greater than Roche, which is another pharmaceutical, in 2015. Procter & Gamble CO2 emissions were 5 times greater than Johnson & Johnson, even though the two companies generate the same level of revenues and sell a similar line of products. All right. Says they also found that German company Bayer AG, which we know owns Monsanto and all the chemicals and things they create and all the pharmaceuticals they're involved, they reported emissions of 9.7 megatons and revenues of 51.4 billion, yielding an emission intensity of 189 tons of CO2 equivalent per $1 million. This intensity level is more than 4 times greater than the overall pharmaceutical sector. So Bayer alone with Monsanto are producing more than 4 times the amount of the overall pharmaceutical sector. And Bayer's revenues derive from pharmaceutical products, medical equipment, and agricultural commodities. While they report their financial revenues separately for each division, they lump together their emissions from all the divisions. So that's not just for their medical division, that would be for, Roundup, for everything. The company also reports and tracks its emission intensity in terms of tons of CO2 produced for each ton of manufactured goods, whether fertilizer or aspirin. Now, as I said, they think that the amount of work it would take these companies to get in line with the Paris Agreement, whether you like it or not, it's going to take a lot of work to get there. Now, this last point I think is key, and then we'll focus on the bigger picture. The pharmaceutical industry is responsible for some serious environmental impacts beyond greenhouse gas emissions. And I think this is the important part, because look, whether you believe in man-made climate change or whether you think CO2 is dangerous or greenhouse gases are dangerous, there are actual impacts by the pharmaceutical industry beyond just getting people addicted and sick and traumatizing people and sometimes leading to suicide and all kinds of things. It says, for example, the wastewater from drug manufacturers in Patan Cheru, India, has left river sediment, groundwater, and drinking water polluted. Researchers estimated that in a single day, 44 kilograms of ciprofloxacin, a broad-spectrum antibiotic, was released. So this thing is just released, and that is enough that could have treated 44,000 people. And it says clearly there is a dire need for more extensive and sustained research, as well as scrutiny of the pharmaceutical industry's environmental practices and performance. Healing people is no justification for killing the planet. Now, I don't know that they're healing people. I don't want to paint too broad of a brush because, for example, I had to go to the dentist recently, and they put me on an antibiotic. Maybe, I don't know who makes that antibiotic. I could do a little research and find out. Maybe it's one of these companies. Maybe me going to the dentist and having to get pain relief or having to get an antibiotic is a part of this overall greenhouse gas emissions by the pharmaceutical industry, part of contributing to the destruction of the environment and the planet. We all, I think, contribute in one way or the other, because even if you're the most green, crunchy person out there and you're using oils and you're using herbs and you're using just your diet, you're using Ayurvedic methods, what have you, there are certain times when you might need Western medicine. If you got a smashed, broken bone, or if there's just different things, surgeries and stuff that we can avoid or find alternative treatments in a lot of ways. But in many cases, we still are, I don't want to say dependent, but we still are a part of that system, even if we despise the opioid crisis and we despise the pharmaceutical, getting people on psychotropic drugs, and we despise the revolving door between the pharmaceutical industry and the government. I think that it's, unless you're just totally devoid of these products and haven't used them ever or in a long time, which I tend not to. I mean, it's been a while since I've taken anything until I went to the dentist. But my point here is that it's easy to just say, well, it's all the pharmaceutical companies' problem. They're, hurting the planet more than me driving, so people need to figure that out. I do think that's an important point. Like, hey, if you're out there complaining about people driving and having vehicles and things of this sort, well, then we need to talk about what about the pharmaceutical industry. If you're taking pills all day, if you're dependent on that, then maybe you are also a part of the problem. And maybe, according to this study, you're more a part of the problem than those who are driving. It doesn't mean nobody should do anything. We should just be looking to blame other people. At the end of the day, if you want to save the planet, man, you got to get involved. You have to start taking care of your family and your food production. I think that's one of the biggest, easiest steps. And so you don't have to be dependent on food being shipped from thousands of miles away and all the different impacts that go along with that. If you don't want to be dependent on the pharmaceutical industry, then start taking care of your own health. Start getting your health into your own hands and considering what it takes to be a healthy being, mentally, physically, spiritually. Take that holistic approach. Think about alternatives. Don't rely on the pharmaceutical industry. Don't rely on the automotive industry. Don't rely on the oil and gas industry. There's ways for us to be free from these various systems, these control mechanisms, without pointing fingers at other people, and also without just throwing our hands up and saying, oh, well, no matter what I do, it's going to cause harm, so I'll do nothing. We can do better than that. I know we can do better than that. I know you can do better than that. So I just wanted to share that quick update with you guys. And also, why I have you for a moment, I want to let you know that you might get another video this week. Maybe not, but I'm really trying to focus on finishing my book, Counter Economics, How to Opt Out of the Coming Social Credit State, which I think, as you guys recognize, is increasingly important. I do have at least a couple more videos coming out, and I have maybe a little mini documentary I'm going to put together on a topic that is new to me and that maybe some of you have heard about. I'll just put this name out there, Stanley Marsh 3, if that means anything to any of you. And we'll be diving into that topic as well as other things, and I'll be back to regular Monday through Friday videos and the live show within the next week. In the meantime, if you are interested, you can always follow me on minds.com, of course, the Conscious Resistance Network, and Derrick Broze. I have a profile there. You can join the Discord channel. I still post articles in there. I'm still active in there. You can communicate with me there. If you want to find out what's going on with my campaign, then you can check out Derrick Broze for Mayor of Houston on Facebook and elsewhere. And other than that, my energy is going to getting this book done right now. And I'm also developing the Holistic Self-Assessment, which is my book that is I've put out last year, and you guys have been seeing me put out the audiobooks. I'm going to finish those audiobooks in the next couple days. There's only a couple more chapters. I'm working on developing an online course. So for those who want to dive deep and actually get into this, how can I work on myself while the freaking world is crumbling around me? Well, that's, I think, something I want to help you with, and it's something that I'm working on. So together we can do that, and the Holistic Self-Assessment, I think, is a good tool for that. So lots of exciting things coming up. Other than that, guys, if you want to check out Tour 2019, this page on our website, that's where you can find out where I'll be speaking. I only have 2 other talks planned the rest of this year. There's a chance for me to get accepted to 2 other events, and I'll keep you aware of that. But as it stands, I am only going to be speaking at Jackalope Freedom Fest, which is in Arizona, coming up in the first couple days of August, and then at Anarchadelphia and Philadelphia. So stay tuned for that if you want to see me, and then I'll post some updates if there are any other opportunities. And that's it for now, guys. I appreciate the support. I don't know if you've noticed, but YouTube's been throttling my account again. I keep losing subscribers. I don't know if it's just because I pissed you guys off because I call out Trump for what he's about, or I call out the soldiers, or I call out, the truth. But I'm going to keep doing it. I'm not, going to depend on pleasing you. But I have a feeling it's YouTube messing with my subscribers. We're growing. Then all of a sudden I hit a wall. Now I can't get to 30,000. I can't get out of 29,000. Maybe I'm not producing good enough content. If you've got suggestions on better things I should be doing, if you have story ideas that you'd like me to see, like me to look into, then let me know. But more than likely, I think it's that YouTube is deleting subscribers and deleting thumbs up and deleting likes and subscriptions and things like that. And I've seen that happen on other channels, and I've had some of you guys tell me that's happening. So in the meantime, guys, that's it for now. I appreciate the support so much. Like, share, subscribe, suggest this to friends. Put my work out there because it helps a lot. And without you guys, I couldn't do this. And I appreciate it very much. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.